China's economy is collapsing. White-collar workers now pay to work, and Shenzhen is doomed.
It's all covered in today's China Truths.
The worst-off people now are not those who have not received education, but those who cannot find a job after graduating from college. I found a problem at a class reunion today. There are 6 people in a dormitory, 4 of whom cannot find a job. Later, I found out that the other 2 are delivery men.
4个找不到工作，后来才发现，另外2个是送外卖的。
I worked hard to get into college and studied for 4 years. Isn't the purpose of going to college to find a good job? As a result, after 4 years of college, I can't find a job at all. To be honest, I actually regret going to college a little bit. If I hadn't gone to college, I would earn 3,500 yuan a month as a waiter, with food and accommodation. But what happened to me after 4 years of college? I can't even find a job that pays 4,000 yuan. In recent years, China's economy has been sluggish, and unemployed people are everywhere. However, there are a large number of college graduates in the mainland every year, and the problem of unemployment after graduation is difficult to alleviate. Even in Shenzhen, it is difficult to find a job. Some college graduates have finally found a job, but after deducting necessary expenses, the remaining money is simply not enough to maintain a minimum living. Today, we will talk about related topics. Recently, a female law graduate in China cried that her monthly salary was 2,500 yuan, and 1,800 yuan would be deducted for Social Security, leaving only 700 yuan, which is equivalent to a daily salary of only a little more than 30 yuan. She explained, "Why do you have to pay Social Security? Because you must have a record of paying Social Security to get a trainee lawyer certificate. If you don't pay Social Security, you can't become a trainee lawyer, and you can't become a professional lawyer. My boss told me that my Social Security is deducted from my salary. The original salary of 2,500 yuan, after deducting 1,800 yuan for Social Security, leaves only 700 yuan. I work 22 days a month, which means that my daily salary is only a little more than 30 yuan. Why do I have to pay for insurance? Because if you want to get a trainee lawyer certificate, you must have a record of paying Social Security. If you don't pay Social Security, you can't become a trainee lawyer. If you can't become a trainee lawyer, you can't become a professional lawyer. I spend 6 yuan to take the subway every day to go to work, and it costs 12 yuan to go back and forth. I have to eat, and I pay to go to work every day." The woman said that law students must have experience to be a company's legal affairs, and the competition for civil service examinations is also very fierce. Only graduate students can become judges and prosecutors. She cried and said, "Law students nowadays are so pitiful. I still rely on the money I earned as a tutor and the money my grandparents gave me. Otherwise, how can I survive? I'd rather not survive. I don't have a penny and I have to work every day to pay for it." This video resonated with mainland netizens. Some said, "We have all experienced what you have experienced. Just hold on. It will be fine if you hold on. Don't cry, kid. You will get used to it slowly. Everyone is a cow or a horse." There is a joke on the internet that it is not easy for a boss to recruit a driver with a monthly salary of 2,000 to 3,000 yuan. But if you want to recruit a trainee lawyer with a monthly salary of 2,000 to 3,000 yuan and let him work for you, write materials, and be your driver, then you will definitely have a lot of applicants. This female blogger is a lawyer. She thinks it is more difficult for law students to find jobs this year than in previous years. I think it is more difficult for law students graduating this year because I found in the lawyer group that the recruitment of intern lawyers and paralegals has decreased, which is related to the lawyers' business volume. In the economic winter, the lawyers' business volume will also decrease and be affected, so naturally, the demand for paralegals and intern lawyers will also decrease. Even companies want to lay off employees, and the lawyer industry is the same. It's not that we don't work hard. On the contrary, I think we work very hard. How bad is the employment situation for law? As the best major in liberal arts, its employment is very representative. If the employment of this good major is not satisfactory, then where is the way out for other liberal arts majors? Yesterday, I found 7 undergraduate law students from Guangxi University and learned about their and their class's employment situation, which is much worse than I expected. First of all, there is the issue of the employment rate. Many of their classmates have not found a job yet. Including the classmates I interviewed, several of them have not found a job. They roughly estimated that the employment rate of their major is only 50% at most, which means that at least half of the students are still unemployed. Among the employed people, about 20% can pass the civil service exam. Everyone should know the status of law in the civil service exam. It is the largest major in the civil service exam. There are the most positions, the best departments, and the least competition. Under such circumstances, only 20% of the people pass the civil service exam every year. Among the students who pass the civil service exam, most of them are civil servants in 4th and 5th tier cities or in some county towns. In better cities like Nanning, Guilin, and Luzhou in Guangxi, the proportion is not very high because these places are also very competitive. The blogger said that there is another destination for law graduates, which is to work as lawyers in law firms. However, very few people go to law firms. Why? Because they have to pass the bar exam, and the pass rate of the bar exam is very low. Even if a powerful relative helps the graduate enter a law firm, he will not make any money in the first 5 years of working in the law firm. It is good enough if the monthly salary can support himself, and some people can't even support themselves. He suggested that if you want to be a lawyer, it is better to go to cities in developed provinces because the more developed the region, the more lawsuits there are, and the more people hire lawyers to fight lawsuits. The woman said that the employment rate of law graduates in her university is the lowest. I am a fresh graduate this year, majoring in law. I found a problem. The counselor told me that our law school's employment rate this year is the lowest in the whole school. I was thinking about what happened. Did all the law majors take the civil service exam? Do you have to wait until you have taken the national exam, the provincial exam, and various exams before you know whether you have landed or not, and then look for a job? Who is studying law? Don't study it. The employment rate is the lowest. The employment rate of law has been the lowest for 10 consecutive years, and it is actually called the best major in liberal arts by many people. Not only is it difficult for law students to find jobs, the overall economic environment in China is deteriorating, and the same is true in Shenzhen. Many companies have closed down, and many people have lost their jobs. Blogger Mr. Jiang said that there are also many empty shops in Shenzhen with transfer notices. In the area of Huarun Vanguard Food Street in Longhua, a whole row of empty shops are written for transfer. Such a good location is idle and no one rents it. Many small companies in Shenzhen have closed down, and large companies are also cutting salaries and laying off employees. The most saturated now may be food delivery men and online car-hailing drivers. There are now more wolves than meat. After most people are laid off, they will choose to work as food delivery men, couriers, or online car-hailing drivers to make a transition. Moreover, Shenzhen is a city with high consumption. An ordinary salary for an adult can no longer support a family with children, so most men and women work, and both men and women, young and old, work outside. It is unbelievable to what extent companies are laying off employees now. One person gets one salary, but he has to do the work of 2 to 3 people. He wants to quit and is under great pressure, but he has to earn this wasteful job because he doesn't know if he can find a better job in the future after quitting. There is no way but to force yourself to become a tool man. Is it the same in your place?
Over 50 banks collapse in China this year, scholars, rapid spread of financial risk. According to the Financial Times, which is overseen by the People's Bank of China, at least 50 small and medium-sized banks have closed down since the start of the year. The vast majority of these were rural banks with the exception of one city commercial bank, Korla Bank. In specific instances, several mergers and acquisitions have taken place. In April, the Nanyue Bank in Guangdong took over the Nanyue Village and Town Bank. In June, the Dongguan Rural Commercial Bank merged with two other rural banks, and the Liaoning Rural Commercial Bank absorbed 36 rural small and medium-sized banking institutions. More recently, in July, the Huaibei Rural Commercial Bank took over the debts and credits of the Anhui Suishi Rural Commercial Bank, the Dongguan Bank bought the Dongguan Chang'an Village and Township Bank, and the Xinjiang Bank merged with Korla Bank. Experts have commented on the situation. Lu Qingxiang, a chief banking analyst, pointed out that these banks struggle with insufficient profits, poor asset quality, and limited capital replenishment, and financial authorities are supportive of these mergers and restructurings. Shui Hongyan, deputy director of the Xintu Financial Research Institute, explained that many of China's rural small and medium-sized banks are legal entities lacking in talent and scale, facing high market competition and operational risks. The news of these closures has sparked discussion online, with netizens expressing concerns. This is a sign of banks collapsing, the hidden dangers are clearly visible, you can imagine how terrifying the current economic crisis is, and look at how messy things are now, even banks can't keep going. Chinese government data shows a continuous decline in mainland banking institutions, totaling 4,490 by the end of 2023. This marks the second year of reductions. The China Financial Stability Report 2023 from the People's Bank of China classifies 337 of these as high risk, all small and medium-sized, with combined assets of 6.63 trillion yuan, about $924.18 billion. Associate Professor Zhang Hongyuan warns that the risk of chain collapses among small and medium-sized financial institutions in China is very serious. These institutions are facing mounting pressure, and the spread of financial risks due to bank failures can happen rapidly in China's financial environment. The Economist reports that the rate at which Chinese banks are disappearing is unprecedented, even surpassing the worst of the savings and loan crises. Many small banks are heavily exposed to the troubled real estate sector, with some reporting up to 40% of their loans as non-performing. The Economist predicts that the Chinese government will accelerate the consolidation of small banks through mergers and acquisitions. However, S&P Global estimates that completing this process could take as long as a decade. China launches new campaign, tens of thousands of financial organizations to be affected. On August 14, Chinese regulatory bodies, including the China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission, the Securities Regulatory Commission, and the State Administration for Market Regulation, issued a comprehensive notice outlining a robust plan for the next 3 years. This plan is set to deepen the cleanup and reorganization of local financial organizations, an escalation in efforts compared to previous measures. The notice details specific prohibitions on new entities, stringent regulations over cross-provincial operations, and mandates a reduction in the total number of local financial organizations, along with the removal of non-compliant institutions. The restructuring targets local financial entities involved in commercial factoring, financing leasing, microloan companies, pawnshops, and guarantees. It also specifies rules for managing and cleaning up gold and pseudo-gold exchanges. According to statistics, China houses over 30,000 local financial organizations, with microloan companies, financing guarantee companies, pawnshops, financing leasing companies, and commercial factoring companies being the most common. Experts view the intensified crackdown as the CCP's strategic response to mitigate financial crises. Columnist Wang He has discussed the state of these local financial entities, pointing out their disorderly evolution which exacerbates the current financial crisis, thereby justifying the CCP's increased regulatory scrutiny. The CCP has made preventing systemic financial risks a top priority in recent years, part of which involves shutting down gold exchanges across various regions to reset the industry. US-based economist Li Hingqin comments on the CCP's policy dilemma, choosing the lesser of two evils by closing operations to prevent greater threats to regime stability. He warns that the hasty closure of these operations could lead to untraceability and a larger financial explosion. The CCP's National Financial and Development Laboratory acknowledged in June that internal governance issues within local financial institutions and organizations are significant sources of local financial risk. Taiwanese economist Huang Shizong said that the overall state of China's finances, from the central to local governments, including the banking system, which he described as being in poor condition. He said that the CCP's policy is to prevent the formation of new companies by local governments, which in the past might have established numerous entities to attract investment. Analysts argue that the CCP's reorganization of local financial organizations addresses minor issues and overlooks the root causes of financial instability. Despite China's financial assets exceeding 400 trillion yuan, about $55.8 trillion USD, with more than 90% in bank assets dominated by state-owned banks, the CCP refrains from direct intervention against these banks, focusing instead on regulating internet finance and reorganizing local finance. As China faces deteriorating economic conditions, with ongoing real estate failures and rising bank bad debts, a larger-scale financial crisis seems imminent. The CCP is deliberating the Financial Stability Law, aiming to mitigate financial risks by establishing funds to aid troubled banks, insurance companies, securities firms, and other financial institutions. Wang He said that over 90% of the financial assets and liabilities in China are held by the banking system, a fact well known within the CCP. However, the CCP shifts focus to the chaos in local finance as its primary target for crackdowns, intending to significantly reduce the number of local financial institutions. Multiple sources indicate that with the directive to not increase the total number of local financial organizations, the focus for the next 3 years will be on enhancing the regulation of existing organizations and eliminating non-compliant ones. A financial institution head in Guangdong revealed that while the region currently hosts 7,000 local financial organizations, this number is expected to decrease to about 5,000 in the forthcoming phase. Unprecedented censorship of body theft incident, CCP state media blurs focus? In a recent shocking development, a widespread crime involving the theft of bodies for use in producing biological materials has come to light. The crime involved multiple companies and individuals across various industries, drawing sharp condemnation both domestically and internationally due to its particularly vile nature. Beijing lawyer Yi Xinhua, who brought this incident to public attention, was left stunned by the case. Adding to the discourse, commentator on Chinese current affairs, Xiang Dongliang, expressed his horror at such extreme incidents, remarking that everyday reality pushes the boundaries of what I thought was the bottom line. A report by Caixin said that Shangxi Airway, the company at the center of the scandal, is not merely an ordinary player in China's biomaterial industry but is infamously known within the sector. The company also supplies bone materials to a state-owned pharmaceutical company in Fujian province. The response from the mainland public has been one of universal fear and outrage at such a disregard for human decency. In response to the unfolding scandal, Chinese Communist Party authorities have implemented severe censorship measures to control the narrative. Lawyer Yi Xinhua's revealing Weibo post was deleted, and he was stripped of his directorial position at his law firm. Furthermore, all related reports from major media outlets including Caixin, Phoenix Net, Jimyan News, and the paper have been erased from the internet. On Weibo, the situation escalated as numerous related trending topics were censored, and discussion sections for news articles were cleared out. In an unusually stringent move, the share buttons on news posts related to the case were removed, and like buttons were disabled, effectively preventing users from engaging with the news. Jeff Lee, a Chinese tech commentator based in Canada, voiced his astonishment at the depth of the censorship, observing that such extensive controls, including disabling the like button, marked an unprecedented and revealing measure of the situation's gravity. Chinese media exposes corruption in funeral industry, shifting focus? Amid the emerging issue of body theft, on August 14, both Chinese state media and the English edition of China Daily highlighted rampant corruption in China's funeral industry. The reports outlined various malpractices such as kickbacks for funeral supplies, fraudulent procurement of equipment, the issuance of fake cremation certificates, and unauthorized use of cemetery plots, implicating numerous managers and officials within the industry. Throughout the year, disciplinary and supervisory bodies across several provinces, including Anhui, Guangdong, Jilin, Jiangxi, Sichuan, Liaoning, Jiangsu, and Yunnan, have initiated investigations targeting staff from funeral homes and their management offices. These investigations have unearthed multiple instances of misconduct among funeral company employees and associated entities. Significant enforcement actions have been taken within the sector. Notably, at least 12 funeral home directors and deputy directors, along with 6 directors or deputy directors of county funeral management offices, have come under scrutiny. In one instance, 89 workers in Daizhou City, Sichuan Province were investigated, leading to 6 detentions, and Lu Wanjun, a former director in Huinan County, Jilin, was prosecuted. The charges brought forward involve illegal fee collection, illicit cemetery construction and management, and corruption among staff, though they stop short of accusing the individuals of body theft or sales. Phoenix Net recently reported that due to the CCP's cremation and ashes policies, some unclaimed bodies lack death certificates, preventing funeral homes from cremating those who died under unnatural circumstances, which has led to a significant buildup of bodies. An industry insider quoted in the report expressed concerns that these unclaimed and uncremated bodies are particularly vulnerable to being falsely claimed. The indictment circulating online against Shaanxi Airway reveals that funeral homes are a major source of the bodies the company uses, with false claiming being a primary method for their illicit activities. This has prompted netizens to question why unclaimed bodies can accumulate significantly, inquiring about their origins and how they are transported to funeral homes. Some netizens also suggest that the investigation into funeral home corruption might be insufficient to address issues of body theft and processing, questioning whether this focus might be diverting attention from potentially culpable biomaterial companies. They compare the situation to Shaanxi Airway's backing by a CCP central enterprise, pointing out that all funeral homes in China operate under the Ministry of Civil Affairs, making access without connections or insider knowledge virtually impossible. Respond to the people's calls for reform tops hot search, Chinese citizens demand voting rights. On August 11, CCTV published an article titled Earnestly Respond to the People's Calls for Reform, revisiting Xi Jinping's 2015 remarks urging cadres to enhance their capabilities to lead and implement reforms. The article also referred to the recent third plenary session of the 20th Central Committee, which underscored a people-centered approach as a core principle in deepening reforms. However, this rhetoric has sparked widespread criticism online, with netizens questioning if the government will return voting rights, enforce supervisory powers, or implement social benefits like free healthcare and fair pension distribution. On August 14, independent commentator Kai Shinquan highlighted the significance of this trending topic in a social media post, noting that the public's reaction signals a growing dissatisfaction with superficial reforms. He said, "The so-called reforms by the CCP are just to deceive the people. They never intend to implement substantial reforms that benefit the people. That is the biggest difference. All the problems existing in China today, economic, social, livelihood, and foreign relations, ultimately stem from political issues. Without resolving political problems, all other issues remain unsolvable." Mr. Kai argued that meaningful change requires ending one-party rule to allow citizens to speak freely without fear. He emphasized that without addressing underlying political issues, all other reforms remain ineffective. Netizens echoed this sentiment, pointing out that the CCP's notion of reform often serves to preserve its own interests, leaving genuine public concerns unaddressed. One commented, "As a registered Chinese citizen, I call for nationwide elections, lifting the ban on political parties, press, and internet freedom, nationalizing the military, and abolishing one-party dictatorship." Mr. Ching from Shanghai told Radio Free Asia that reforms have long avoided addressing core issues like political and administrative system changes. He believes the government's primary focus is maintaining its own vested interests, rather than benefiting ordinary citizens. Similarly, Mr. Liu from Gansu noted that public discussions online are mostly limited to livelihood issues because they are considered safer topics. He stated that the reforms mentioned in the resolution of the CCP's third plenary session are all empty rhetoric, devoid of any mention of political reform. If they truly want to reform and open up, they should start by releasing political prisoners, lifting the bans on political parties, press, and freedom of speech, establishing genuine rule of law, and giving the vote to the people. Without achieving these points, all the reforms are empty talk and meaningless. China amends marriage regulations, easier to marry, harder to divorce. According to CCTV reports on August 15, the Ministry of Civil Affairs has drafted a revised version of the marriage registration regulations, currently open for public input. This marks the first significant change since the regulations were implemented in 2003. Under the proposed changes, household registration books will no longer be required for marriage registration, and jurisdictional limits based on residence will be removed. For divorce, the draft simplifies the process by requiring only an ID and marriage certificate, doing away with the need for household registration books. The draft also clarifies the 30-day cooling-off period for divorces. Either party can withdraw the application during this period, effectively halting the divorce process. The proposal has ignited widespread debate online, with many netizens expressing negative views. Many netizens questioned whether the rule allowing one party to cancel a divorce would lead to lower marriage rates and potentially worsen domestic violence. One commented, "Because of this divorce cooling-off period, more and more people are afraid to get married." This policy seems to encourage people to get married and have children, but it actually deters them by making them give up the idea of marriage altogether. Others voiced concerns that the draft could facilitate human trafficking, forced marriages, and bigamy. The key issue is that trafficked women won't need a household registration book to be legally married. Even if the police catch the traffickers, it will be hard to impose severe penalties. Although these women are trafficked, because they're legally married, the criminals will receive leniency. Eliminating divorce turns women into lifelong slaves, no way out. Who would still want to rush into marriage? Meanwhile, official data shows that marriage registrations in China hit a record low in the first half of 2023, while the country's population continues to shrink. Netizens are questioning whether these new regulations will truly benefit society or merely create more challenges for those seeking to end troubled marriages. Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. If you find the information helpful, please share this video with a friend to watch together. This will be a great source of motivation for our team to produce more and more quality and reliable videos. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths. Thank you for tuning in.